Amplifier reviews are one of the most difficult reviews to do because, well, amplifiers amplify, and if they do what the specs say, well, then they amplify, right? Now, of course, amplifiers have their own sound signature, but you really get into kind of a subjective at best review. And, well, I'm going to struggle through that today. Well, I thought I was going to struggle through it until I actually took a listen to this Galion TS120 SE. And I think the SE means special edition. That's what I'm going to call it, the special edition. Because at first I thought, okay, just another tube amp, right? Actually, not just an amplifier. This is an integrated, analog integrated amplifier. So it's a preamp and an amplifier. But I thought, okay, just kind of another device and it'll kind of do what it does and it'll be all right. Well, I was wrong because this guy, when I used it, I discovered that it was good, but it can be great.
Before we get started, if you're into tech, hi-fi, or movies, be sure to push the subscribe button for new weekly videos.
And the reason I say that it's good, but it can be great is that, well, this integrated has fiddleability. And what I mean by that is that you can run this in a whole bunch of different modes, right? So it can be class A or AB, and that's 30 watts a channel in A and 50 watts a channel in AB. And then it's got this sound thing here. You can go into 3 different sound modes. There's the A, the B, and then the T, which means you can use the tone controls. And it's got a bass and a treble tone control. So when I say that it kind of goes from good to great, hey, isn't there a book? Anyway, it really does, because there's some settings where I think it sounds all right, but then there are other settings where I think it sounds really good, and it really shocked me how good it sounded. So we're going to jump in and talk about all of that in this review. But to get started, let's go over the front and the back and that kind of stuff so you can see what we're working with. Let's talk about the front of the TS120 SE. So if you start here on the left-hand side, you got your receiver for your remote control, and this is a big chonky remote control. This thing's metal with big O silver buttons. You have your standby or your power button, then your change, bias, and class button. This is the section that lets you move from A to AB and then AB back to A operation. Volume button. You have your bass and treble when you have your sound selector in the T mode in the middle, and then you can go to A on the left and B on the right, and you can feel these bump into position. There's also a center on the tone control as well, so you can feel that very obviously as you move this around. Then all the way on the right-hand side, you've got your inputs, so your 4 inputs and your home theater bypass. Now on the top here, you've got your tubes, right? So you've got your 12A T7s here in the front, and then these in the back are KT88Cs. Obviously, you can roll tubes if you want and go for different sounds there. Obviously, this is all exposed for you. Now, there is a cage that is purchasable to protect this. It's a black metal cage, which looks quite nice. We don't have that installed, but you can see where it would go here. There's a lot going on the back of this unit, so let's kind of take it from the left to right here. So this first section is your input section. You've got home theater bypass and then 4 set of RCA inputs. Now you've got a tape out, which is kind of interesting, and then you've also got sub out, and this is 2-channel sub, and then you can use this switch to sum that from mono for stereo to mono. Now for your speaker output, you'll select between 4 ohm and 8 ohm left and right. The negative will be your common, and then the reds, the hots, will determine whether you're setting this up for 4 ohm or 8 ohm speakers. You have a ground, and you can use this for normal or noise reduction, power in, and then your power switch. Now that you know what's going on with the amplifier, let's talk about my impressions. Now, first off, I've slept on this for a little while. You know, a lot of reviews came out on this thing, gosh, almost a year ago now. But this is going to be another one because I think it's good enough that it deserves a little more chit chat. And really the brand in general is excellent. You know, if you know Thomas in Stereo, this is his baby and his brainchild, and he's done a really great job with this and all the others. But okay, let's get into it right now. Outside of the obvious, let's roll some tubes and change that stuff. You know, I'm rocking the tubes that this unit has, and I'm not changing those out. I want to talk about the modes of amplification. So A versus AB. Now, in general, I typically kind of lean toward A versus AB, but when I listened to this amplifier, I really preferred the sound signature of the AB. It was a lot more open for me. Now, you know, when I say a lot more open, remember, this is very subjective stuff that we're talking about. And, you know, maybe there's a 5% difference in the sound, but I did prefer the sound of the AB over the A. Now, is it because there's more power there? I don't think so. I tried to set this to the same volume so that I wasn't being kind of impacted by, oh, it's louder, so it's got to be better. There is more juice, and, you know, 30 versus 50 watts. That's a big step up. And, you know, that'll give you, it's not double, so it's not going to give you 3 more decibels, but, you know, maybe it's giving you 2 more decibels. But I did like that sound signature better. Now, where things really kind of got crazy for me is the sound switch. So A and B was a humongous difference. And I don't know what's going on in the inside of this thing that changes the sound, but in A mode, I really didn't like it. I don't like A mode at all. It's very closed in. It feels almost like there's a flange turned on or something. I didn't care for it. When you swap it over to B mode though, man, it really opens up and everything is expanded. I'm not going to get into these audiophile terms of, you know, it was a buttery sound with a hint of pumpkin, but it was considerably better, and it's demonstrably better than the A mode. And I had, you know, my kids come in, I said, which one's better? And it was B every time. Now, once you get done with the A and B, you then can move it into T mode, and that turns on the tone controls. And that's really important because this thing really opened up for me with tone control capability. So I was using this with the SVS Ultra Evolution Pinnacles, and they can get a little bit bright. So I was able to use this treble to tone that down just a little bit. And now these are quad 8-inch drivers at each one. And I gave it a little bit of bump on the bass. And I tell you what, this thing was absolutely bonkers, right? It's amazing. It was really good. These speakers were going off. I was able to play electronica, and the bass was strong and full and powerful and deep in a way that not every amplifier can do, right? I mean, this has got some strong guts to it. On the high end, I was able to tone these speakers down and tame them just a little bit with the treble control, and vocals were great, female vocals, but man, I really did enjoy the electronica and the hard rock and classic rock. I mean, this thing was going off. Get a little electric guitar going, man, it was really, really good. All right, so knowing that the sound on this thing is great, I want to talk about the other features too, because, you know, they're important, but I couldn't wait on the sound. So this is tube, and it can move from class A to class AB. And, you know, it's got a cool little set of buttons where you can hit the change button, and then you change your class, and you hit bias, and then lights light up and turn off, and then you hit the change button again, and then you're in the other mode. It takes about a minute. So it's kind of cool that you have that capability to swap around. Another piece is you have your input switch here, and this gives you 4 different inputs. Now these are all analog. There is no DAC in this thing. So if you want to use a streaming service, something like that, you're gonna have to have an external box, right? And, you know, I've got a bunch of external boxes that are Roon targets or can stream natively that can output via RCA, because there are no XLRs on this thing, as you saw. So this is all single-ended. And you just pipe that in because this is a purely analog device. All right, I think we're going to go ahead and call it there. Thank you so much for watching. Now, if you enjoyed this video, there'll be another one down in the bottom. Give it a shot. I think you'll like it as well. And also remember, like and subscribe, ring the bell, do all those things. And I'll see you in the next video.